Visit www.business.safaricom.co.ke to sign up.
And coming up in sports, it's another bag of goodies for Faith Kipyegon as Safaricom rewards the world record holder with 2 million shillings.
Yeah.
Are your investments locked in one place with little flexibility to do more? At Standard Chartered Priority Banking, we have the expertise to help unlock your investments, giving you room to do more. You can borrow up to 70% of your total investments at competitive rates. That's not all. You have the flexibility to borrow from a wide range of currencies, including Kenyan shillings, dollars, euros, or pounds. Email prioritybanking.ke@sc.com.
Najua kuwa mnaweza do more na direct line. Sasa mnaweza mkakava mali na bizenu zote kutokana na risks tofauti.
So unaweza cover hardware yangu yote hadi stoko iko nje in case ya wezi.
Na botiki yangu kuchomeka.
Hiyo yote no maachia direct line.
Na pale kwa site naweza kawa construction yangu, mashini, mafundi
Na shule yangu, wanafunzi, wafanyikazi, basi.
Na in case mimi nipate ajali.
Rahisi, no maachia direct line.
Omera, what about my palatial residence?
Nama achia direct line.
Do more na direct line. Visit your nearest branch, agent, broker or bank assurance partner today or SMS Bima to 23454.
Direct line. Every day is sure.
Do more.
Eldoret, are you ready?
I am releasing your blessings, financial breakthrough, job breakthrough, career breakthrough.
Apostle Peter Manyuro of Jesus Teaching Ministry is coming to town for a healing and deliverance crusade. Join us at the Eldoret Sports Club grounds from 22nd to 25th June starting 10 a.m. and receive your miracle.
You are unstoppable. Are you ready to receive the power of the Holy Spirit? Are you ready?
Do not miss out.
Kila mtu lazima aruke.
Lakini siwezi simama tu hapa hivi nikiangalia venye nyumba yetu inaharibika. Siwezi.
Tumia hii fursa utoke hapa kabla maji hayajafika shingoni. Meja.
Come to Kidani Mabati and enjoy an array of Mabati options at discounted prices. Pay a 50% deposit and the balance on delivery. Tujenge Kenya na Kidani Mabati.
You need to ask yourself, where do you want to go? No matter who you are. Trust yourself. Dream big. Break the rules, not the laws. Keep pushing. Everything is possible. Trust yourself. Life is about confidence. Africa, it's your time.
Son, live with confidence.
Whenever you fly to space or take your first step as baby, Soft Care always stays with you.
New Soft Care Space Series is rooted from space technology. Keeps you dry and comfortable for 12 hours long. Offers you the most effective protection during your space journey.
Soft Care. Protect your leap.
His
His Excellency the Governor of Kisumu County, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, is pleased to announce to all property holders a 100% waiver on all outstanding interest and penalties on land rates. Take advantage of this waiver period to clear all your outstanding arrears, failure to which the original amount owed will be reinstated and legal action instituted. Present your deposit slip to the respective sub-county offices for database update. Take advantage of this waiver period and avoid further penalties.
Jijenge na shilingi 1500 guaranteed kila wiki kwa kucheza Kaende Jackpot. Shiriki kwa kutumia 50 bob pekee, cheza na Autopic kwa kutuma neno KJP kwa 29063. Not for persons under the age of 18. BCLB number 416.
Feel home with world-class local and international entertainment only on DSTV.
Hii ndo siri ya mabingwa. Story Africanacity.
We believe you can also do the impossible. That's what we call Africanacity. Whatever your goals, join ABSA today, and together we can get things done.
Two exceptional athletes in two very popular sports across the world had a rare meeting in Kenya as sports once again showed its power to bring different people together. Hyundai's 2019 World Rally champion Ott Tanak was a guest of world marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge at his training camp in Kaptagat, Elgeyo Marakwet County, where the two shared notes about the diversity of their disciplines in a remarkable convergence of motorsport and road running. Tanak, who was accompanied by fellow rally driver Pierre-Louis and their technical team, were received by Eliud Kipchoge and fellow athletes, including the double world record holder, Faith Kipyegon. Kipchoge gifted his guest a signed Nike Alpha Fly Next 2 pair of running shoes, while Tanak responded in kind, gifting his host a rally driver's safety helmet.
Value teamwork. You know, there are a lot of things happening behind the scene. It's like, you know, on our side, it's a lot of things behind the scene.
It's been an incredible atmosphere actually, and a great experience for us as well. You know how he's able to keep his group of people, his family together, and how humble they are. So it's amazing to be here.
And speaking of athletics, double Olympic and world record holder Faith Kipyegon is still receiving accolades and rewards 2 weeks after setting two new world records in the women's 1,500 meters and 5,000 meters. She was a special guest of Safaricom at their headquarters in Nairobi. Safaricom rewarded her with a goodie bag and 2 million shillings for her exceptional achievement in breaking two records in 1 week.
So, of course,
Safaricom CEO Peter Ndegwa has been supporting athletics and says they're keen to reward success and will do the same for any other Kenyan world beater.
I can say beating that world record with a span of 1 week, it motivated me a lot to know that everything is possible. I was doubting myself in the 5,000 race because I told my management that I'm only going there to try and just to run my personal best, to lower my personal best and just to enjoy the race. But I didn't know I was going to break the world record. It just came as a surprise. I thank God. I'm still shocked.
It also fits with our brand in terms of showcasing and celebrating big stars in supporting sports, in inspiring young generation of sports people, of women, and really ensuring that Kenya continues to be world beaters.
Well done to Faith. Such a shining beacon for the country. Now, Kenya is looking to go one better in beach tennis when the second Africa Beach Games start later this week in Hammamet, Tunisia. Kenya won a bronze medal in the event at the inaugural Africa Beach Games in Cape Verde in 2019. 4 years later, and Kenya has selected a strong team with bronze medalist Fazal Mohammed leading the team. Also on the team is former junior tennis champion Shufa Changawa, back in competition after a 3-year sabbatical. The two emerged the winners of the National Beach Games tennis competition held at the Buntwani Water Park in Malindi, Kilifi County, in April this year. The first batch of the Kenya team, the handball women team, has already landed in Tunisia and will play their first match on Wednesday. The tennis team also has Faith Urasa and Kazungu Kesi.
Pressure-wise, of course, it's a tournament. Of course, pressure is there. But since I have experience, I think I can manage that.
This time we're really prepared and we're really ready for the beach tennis, and we hope we'll bring the gold now. Because last time we bring the bronze, now we hope, to bring the gold. Mm-hmm.
The Kenya Special Olympics team had a good day in office in Germany as they posted impressive results, cheered on at the Special Olympics World Games by their patron, Her Excellency Pastor Dorcas Gachagua. The team won the first medal, Willis Otieno clinching silver in the standing long jump event in athletics. The patron was the cheerleader in all their matches as Kenya was in fine form to beat Bangladesh 6-3 in handball. Up next was seven-a-side football for the home team where they faced Finland. Kenya again showed composure to hammer their opponents 5-1 to make a huge statement. Kenya had earlier thrashed China 15-0 before drawing 4-4 with Slovakia. The only blight for the Kenya team was a 5-1 loss to the hosts Germany in basketball. Now the World Special Olympics Games involves teams of intellectual challenge.
Game imekuwa mzuri, tuko hapa Berlin, tunaendelea na kumalizia michezo yetu ya divisioning. Tungoja grupu ambao tutawekwa ndio tuweze kucompete na
but basically it was a good experience, especially for our athletes who were able to maneuver and do their skills of football, and they're able to make it to score several goals and enjoy the game.
And finally, Talanta FC came from 2 goals down to draw 2-2 with City Stars in their penultimate game of the 2022-2023 FKF Premier League season. City Stars dominated the opening phase of the game and got their reward, winning a penalty in the 38th minute, converted by Kelvin Etemesi. In the second half, Etemesi was at it again, scoring his double and the second for the City Stars in the 64th minute. 6 minutes later, Talanta FC's comeback started with a converted penalty. They piled on the pressure and grabbed the equalizer deep into stoppage time.
Nafikiri ni ilikuwa moment yao na wakapata chances zao wakazitumia vizuri, so ilikuwa si moment yetu ijafika, so vile imefika ndio tuka equalize.
After 2 goals up ni kama tume structure defending na to defend sote, tukapata nafasi wakarudi kwa mechi, so niko disappointing sana mazee.
Okay, so I know I said finally with that last one, but this one's final, for real. Tusker FC is the only team with a chance to win a double this season, as they're in the hunt for the Kenya Premier League title as well as the FKF Cup. With 2 games to go in this current season, Tusker are second in the league, 2 points behind Gor FC. Tusker have an easier run on paper as they face Posta Rangers on Wednesday in Nairobi before travelling to Mumias to face the already relegated Vihiga Bullets. Their title rivals Gor Mahia have 2 tricky fixtures against Kakamega Homeboys on Wednesday and City Stars on the final day of the season. Tusker are in the final of the FKF Cup where they play Kakamega Homeboys.
Our focus is about tomorrow's match. It will be a difficult match, but we are very, very, very much ready for the game, because the task ahead of us, and also the benefit of that match for us, and also for the league. So it's going to change the dynamic of the league.
Hii ndo siri ya mabingwa. Studio Africa Nasties.
We believe you can also do the impossible. That's what we call Africanacity. Whatever your goals, join ABSA today, and together we can get things done.
With the explainer, and my conversation continues with Jimi Wanjigi, who's a businessman and was an aspirant for the presidential race in the 2022 general election. We've talked about a lot of things about the country's debt situation. I'd like us to just sort of finish up on that one. Now, a few of my viewers are upset that you have talked about Africans who don't read. And saying they're absolutely slighted, by that. And yet there are many people who are involved in Kenya's debt cycle, right? African and non-African.
And non-African, I fully agree.
So, they're saying, they're the non-Africans as well. Do they also not read? And perhaps asking you to stop saying Africans, don't read, because obviously you have done some reading, right, to come up with what you have. But let's talk about
Let me explain that. I think that's important.
Yeah.
It is actually a quote from Wazungus, not my quote.
Okay.
They say, if you want to hide something from an African, put it in a book. That's not my quote.
But you made reference to it several times.
Now, in this context, we have that problem in Parliament. Big time. But I want to address the other people that you mentioned, the bilaterals, the IMF, the World Bank, the people who are giving us Eurobonds, those. Now, World Bank gives us money for development. That is in the development appropriations. You'll find it there. IMF normally supports our foreign reserves issue. So it doesn't come to fund projects. It doesn't even come to fund recurrent expenditure. It's budgetary support mainly for our reserves, right? And our programs that we state, but it's mainly for reserves. Now, with the Eurobonds, I want to cite one that I didn't mention, which was Malaysia. Malaysia had gone out for what they call a 1 MDG, which was $3.6 billion, similar to our Eurobond that they took from Goldman Sachs. Out of investigation, Goldman Sachs actually returned all that money. So what we are doing here is exposing for the benefit of Kenyans. We must agree, Yvonne, that we are a country ruled by the rule of law, governed by our constitution and rules. We can't talk about those being procedure. Because if you put them as procedure, then you're wiping off the rule of law. Because if it means that we ignore the rule of law, then anything goes, right? When somebody ignores the rule of law and they go and murder, that is murder. What I'm saying is that our laws are very clear where we anchor our debt. And they're in the Constitution and in PFM. And our laws have not covered any of these so-called debts that we are seeing posted in the CBK account. What they are showing us today is 9.4 trillion. I would really love to see what all that is. When we audited, it was 8.4. 1 trillion more in a year, right? And nobody is asking, what is happening? Aren't we paying? Why is this thing always going up? It's never coming down. What exactly is going on here? And that is what I'm saying. We go back to our laws. And when you come to our laws, Parliament is very critical in this exercise. They have passed laws. They have passed our expenditure, development, recurrent. But what the Treasury is doing is something different.
Let me ask you, because Parliament's role is to provide oversight, not just to legislate. And if at some point, and in fact, the Public Finance Management Act that you mentioned, under this current constitution, gives Parliament even more powers than it did before the 2010 constitution was promulgated, in terms of providing oversight, in terms of telling the government what they shall and shall not do, what they can and cannot spend on, including providing oversight. Are you then saying Parliament has failed in its role to provide oversight?
Absolutely. It starts from what is the budget. The budget is articulated in Article 220 of our Constitution, right? The budget shall contain estimates of revenue and expenditure. For the last 10 years, there has never been a revenue appropriation tabled in Parliament. There's been expenditure, these books you're seeing here. There has never been a revenue appropriation. How much, what we are borrowing, what we are collecting as tax, never has been tabled. So let's start from there. There's no other oversight beyond that. If you can't oversight that, there's nothing you're doing. So unfortunately, somehow, they've been made to feel that these appropriations of expenditure is the budget. And they have not followed the law. So they have completely failed us. Now, because they have failed us, why should you and I and Mama Mboga be responsible for money that was taken in our name, that we have never had a benefit of, that never followed any law? This is what I'm calling odious. We did not get any benefit from this money. In fact, that money has come to give us pain. It is the biggest reason for our high cost of living.
Do you have hope that maybe this particular parliament might be better or different in terms of its relationship with the executive and to provide oversight and to curb runaway spending and to check that the money that is borrowed is properly utilized?
Every milestone in history, every turning point that we know takes this sort of exposure, takes people that are prepared to say, we are tired of the status quo, we are looking at fine print, and we fear nobody and nothing. And we are going to expose.
Do you think this parliament is that parliament?
Well, let's put it this way. I think with enough information, there are a lot of people who are going to take on their MPs, because this is a period when Kenyans are very clear about the economy. They are going to take on their MPs. They are going to hold them accountable. And I believe in each and every one of their consciences, if they can get their mind off some of the things and the pressures they have, like CDF and other things, they'll come back to understanding that Mwananchi is not about handouts. Mwananchi actually wants delivery of services and development. And they will rise up to the challenge. I believe they will. I have faith in Kenyans. Kenyans have been through some of the worst periods in our lives, yet we have always risen up to the challenge. We are change makers. We are great reformers. If we are a bit older than you, Yvonne, but I can tell you when we go back to even the period of multipartism, we changed, this country changed when nobody thought we could change. So it begins like this. This is our final liberation. We must get rid of the shackles that are tying us down economically. And these shackles have been there since pre-independence. This is the last liberation. So when you talk to me about all these foreigners, don't be fooled. There is no Gabriel angel here. All of them are either prophet or they want us weak. It is to their benefit when we are not strong. It has been proven over time. Now, what has happened is that they have gotten their local collaborators. What long time ago in the slave trade, they used to be called house niggers. They've gotten their local collaborators who have participated in our oppression economically for a benefit up here. This is now the time we must say no more. And we have got the dower. The dower is right here. This debt, Yvonne, we do not owe it. The sovereign does not owe it. And we must say no to it. And that is the beginning of our march to economic freedom.
Do you think this parliament can stand up to the executive and
yes, that is their job in the constitution.
Like you said, there's a lot that is in the law,
yes,
but that doesn't quite get done, including the manner in which we should borrow is properly prescribed in the law, which you've said we're not following the law.
Yes.
Do you believe that this parliament has the capacity to stand up to the executive? Because what you're saying is nothing new. It has been said in this country that parliament has often failed in its role, including some parliamentarians themselves who've admitted it, in the past, that parliament hasn't quite stood up to the executive as it should have, and hasn't provided the oversight role. Do you think this current parliament is the one that will listen to their constituents and listen to their people and actually do what the law actually empowers them to?
Let me use this opportunity to address the head of the executive, because the pressure will come from there. President William Ruto has up to date not signed warrants. As we are talking today, he has the greatest opportunity to change the destiny of this nation by refusing to pay what has been taken unlawfully as debt. The day he signs the warrants, he becomes that owner's odious debt goes to him. So he has that opportunity. And my advice to him today on this screen is President William Ruto, do not sign the warrants that go to debt that has been unconstitutionally taken. Otherwise, you become the owner. Now, if he does not, he will not pressurize the same parliament. He will not pressurize the same parliament. This is a golden opportunity to get rid of something that is plaguing even his government. His government. Why he's coming back to us with more and more problems with taxation is because of this problem. Then I would advise that we as a country must start looking at different solutions to the way we operate.
What would those solutions be?
For the last 60 years, we have applied demand-side economics, which is government-driven. That government is the driver of our growth. Government is the one that solves all our problems with unemployment, right? It is the mover and the shaker. So government is to build you a house. Government is to do X, Y, Z. And this is where we have now the greatest opportunity to start defining economic policy beyond the so-called carrots that are dished. We can do this and do this for you. No, let's define economic policy. So we have defined political. We are a multi-party democracy that is democratic. So we have defined. Now let's get to the economy. There are those who believe government is the greatest driver. I believe different. I believe we need a smaller government. I believe we need leaner government. I believe we need government less in our lives. I believe we need what is called supply-side economics, where the private sector is a driver of growth and the driver of employment. So government does not do projects. So this is where you are talking about privatization. This privatization must be local first. It's not privatization for outsiders. Our country is not something that we just start giving outsiders. We must also enjoy the so-called fruits of Uhuru. We must start practicing supply-side economics. And supply-side economics means that you get tax breaks. The government does whatever it is to facilitate your growth. It gets out of borrowing domestically, right? So it frees up money, something that Kibaki did. Frees up money for you and I to go and borrow at very low interest rates. They were even giving personal loans without guarantees. So you need that as the driver of our growth, so that government focuses on what it's supposed to do. You build our roads, no problem. No problem. You give us adequate police with vehicles that we can all call, because these are services we all enjoy, are supposed to enjoy equally as a citizen of this nation. But get out of trying to do biashara. You can't do it. Government has no business importing cooking oil. I mean, there are manufacturers here. What is it doing? It has no business building your housing. That one, let the free market do it. And I'll give you an example. If, for example, we do not pay any more debt, we have 1.7 trillion that does not go out this coming financial year. You plow back that money in terms of tax breaks. Tax breaks. All right? And then you have government which has already said that they have a deficit, that they want to borrow 700 billion, right, from the domestic market. You now free that in the banks. You're not going to borrow domestically. So the banks now become liquid. Insurance companies who have put in 600 billion in treasury bonds become liquid. Pension funds, 600 billion in government bonds become liquid. They will themselves be the biggest drivers of the free market. They will invest in where we have interest. If it's housing, they'll do it. If there's competition for low-cost housing, they will do it.
Okay. I want to ask you this, because your call to the president today is to not pay what you're calling odious debt.
Yes.
How do you propose to deal with the chain of events or consequences that would follow? Debt that was taken, according to you, unlawfully.
Yes.
But then Kenya wakes up and says, well, we're just not going to pay this because, you know, it wasn't value for money, was not done lawfully. But you know there's a chain of events that would follow that process, including, you know, we're part of a global financial system and part of global financial markets. How do you propose to deal with those chain of events that would follow? For instance, if you were to do even a simple debt restructuring exercise, you know the sort of signals that those send to the international market, right? Okay, looks like you're going to default, and all of those external debts become instantly callable. Now, if we say can't pay, won't pay, we face ostracization from the global financial market. How do you think we would then deal with that chain of events that would likely follow?
Let me assure you of two things. One, Kenya, in my view, globally, is too big to fail. Too big to fail. We are a country.
Greece thought they were too big to fail.
No, they're a very small EU country. In terms of Africa, Kenya is too big to fail. If anybody has not followed the law, I can assure you, those same international backers will not ask us to be part of breaking the law. If we have discovered it, they'll say, are you taking remedial action in your country? We will take in ours. And I'll give you the example. I'll give you the example of Malaysia.
Hang on, allow me to interject. But Jimmy, you've just said that they are part of that heist, that's ignoring Kenya's laws.
Correct.
But now you're saying if we don't pay them, they will be more than happy to say, okay, this was not done lawfully.
Buyer beware. You know, there's a very good clause when you're buying land, right? In the Land Act. Buyer beware. Make sure you have done your proper search. If you spend money and you find it's a funny property, the onus is on you. I've given you the example of Malaysia. Goldman Sachs, which had loaned them $3.6 billion, and they had paid them back in full. In Mozambique, $2 billion, including credit swares. They suffered after that court order. Yes, they tried to ostracize Mozambique. It did not even last 2 years. They went through terrible inflation rate. They were cut out of markets. But at the end, people said, wait a minute. The law is the law. The law is the law. You've taken your own remedial local action. We'll also take ours. So this is possible. It is not known. It is known that there are problems with this. There have been enough discovered. Those are 2 cases. That means these so-called Eurobonds we are seeing, there is a problem. What was discovered with Malaysia is that you had a group of people that were going around the world doing this, and they were caught. Same with Mozambique. Maybe it is here. So we will suffer shortly, for a short time, but not for a long time. We are too big to fail. We are too strategic, too important, especially when we are showing the whole world we are prepared to follow the laws. And we as Kenyans may suffer for a short time. We may see a crazy inflation rate. But as I said, our revenue is enough to take care of our expenditure.
I'd like us to look forward a little bit.
Yes.
The finance bill is currently before Parliament. I'd like us to paint a scenario that is passed. The president signs it into law, and he continues to pay the debt that we owe, that you're calling odious. What then?
Oh, it cannot be sustained. The way they are going, I can assure you, they can't be sustained, and they will come to a halt. The halt meaning this, that they will come to a point where because they have paid debt, they will not be able to pay salaries. And for a long time, they will not be able to meet just very basic expenditure. It is here with us, and they will find no money to borrow from. They will find nobody who's going to loan them at anything that they can pay back. They have already signed an IMF agreement that extended the facility and made it concessionary. So even the Eurobonds that are due to be paid this financial year, this next coming financial year, I wait to see what refinancing model they are going to create. Because when you have taken IMF concessionary funding for your so-called reserves, it means that everything you take must be concessionary. You can't go to the capital markets. So it will be very interesting to see how they raise, I believe at the time will be something like 400 billion to pay Eurobond. They will not have it. So I can see a situation where we are going to have what is called forced debt default. We will default. And you see the Ghanaian situation come here because that is the most recent model that seems with our economy that would work here. And it means this. It means that we go under a program called debt distress exchange. Mm-hmm. where all bondholders took a 30% haircut, right? It meant also, Yvonne, that your account in the bank also took a 30% haircut, right? And it meant that we suffered, and we may suffer, a huge inflation rate. Ghana has been operating between 41 and 50% inflation rate. And it also means that their currency goes literally into the dustbin for a while. Yes. But you save yourself a situation, because if you don't do that...
Is that something we should consider?
Yes,
Ghana?
absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't want to go odious.
Okay, so...
If we don't want to go odious.
Is it can't pay, won't pay, shouldn't pay, or is it restructuring?
My first option,
yeah,
is we go odious. This debt is not legal, it is not lawful, and whatever is not lawful, we are not, as a sovereign, bound to pay. And if our calculations are correct, in fact, not if, our calculations are correct, we are owed as Kenyans 1.3 trillion credit. We don't owe anybody. Now, if people are too afraid to go that option, there's the other option of debt distress exchange. And on that...
Which also has its consequences.
Yes, but you see, that's negotiated. That is negotiated with the domestic
but it is
and
no
foreign.
Less painful.
It is very painful. It is very painful. The other option, if we don't do that, is we suffer what Lebanon went through. They declared default, it was forced. And the banks just shut their doors with everybody's savings. And from 2019, they've not been operating. Happened to Greece. Banks closed for 4 years. Your M-Pesa, everything stops. So life becomes unbearable. That is the forced default. So this other one, where we negotiate, is an option, debt distress exchange. But it is painful.
But you know what will happen? Once you start a debt exchange program, then all of the others, particularly, our foreign debtors, will call up their loans. Because the minute you start to declare restructure, then all of the others who
no, that's restructure.
Money,
when you talk restructure, it's different.
Yes, but
declaring default is a different language to restructuring. Restructuring is when you call them to negotiate. Default is I can't pay you, and this is all I can afford. So everything that you have written in your agreements fall apart by the wayside. The agreement is thrown in the dustbin. All right? Because what are they going to do? Take our country, carve it up and sell it and auction it? That's a war. It will never happen. So you agree, okay, you can't pay. So what can you do? This is what we can do. And the consequences are there. Because then the shilling will lose value, we will have inflation rates, you'll have all of these things. Everybody will not want to have the shilling, they want to hold on to dollars even in the market and so on. Yes, we will suffer for a bit, but only for a bit. At least we are calling on it, and we should be transparent about it. If the government is transparent about it, it becomes something very palatable, because everybody in their mind starts focusing on it.
And legal action?
And then you take legal action thereafter, right? On the culprits. Why did this happen to us? That becomes now a legal political process. But it is an option to take. Debt distress exchange. If the government is too afraid to go odious, then that is the option we should take, and we should take it like yesterday. But my first preference, and I'm sure most Kenyans will be where I am, is we did not take this debt. It has never been to our benefit. It is odious. It is not legal, right? In fact, return our money. Those who took it, follow them. We want a clean slate, right? With a credit. Stop coming back to us with more taxes. Now, let us breathe on the way forward. And let's apply supply-side economics. Let's get government out of defining that they are the only ones who can grow us. They can't grow us anymore. They've shown us they can't. They brought us this huge problem of 70% of our revenue going to debt. We don't need them anymore. Let them do what they are good at doing. Mambo ya biashara, growing our economy, creating employment, leave that to the private sector.
Okay. We will have to leave it at that, because you've given a number of scenarios, roadmaps, possible solutions and options that exist. Again, you've called on the president to not sign that into law?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And, if he does, you say we could be, facing the brink of...
Then he takes the responsibility of the odious debt.
Then he
and I can assure you, because we have been talking to people, this debt is in the near future going to be declared odious. If it is with his signature, he becomes responsible.
Let's take a look at some feedback now as we finish our conversation here. Some interesting thoughts. If the president signs that finance bill into law, continues to pay the debt we owe, that we're in trouble. There are some that would be... I want to take a look at some of your feedback here. Okay, all right. I'm going to get you that feedback that is on your screen in a moment. Just hang on to that. We will take a look at that. Andy Jr. Kasili says, I fully support Jimi. Wanjigi, Adam Smith's laissez-faire economics is the way to go for our country. Promote a free market with minimum government intervention to trigger the growth on the supply side. This will cause a ripple effect and growth in the economy. And then here is another one from, let me get this one here. Olinyo Cherubet Nixon says, I'm getting a lot of eye-opener from Jimi Wanjigi. I need his contacts. Okay, that's something else. You can find him on Twitter. He has a lot to offer the country to take off economically, wanting to be part of the success team. Here's another one. There we go. Matui Joel says, ask Jimi if he's factored in interest rates for the period. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. I want to see some more feedback from both. Says, all the loans should be laid out for the public to see and critique, including its expenditure. And here's another tweet from Frank Hip 4. Jimi is raising pertinent questions as regards borrowing in Kenya. And Jimi is right. This also explains why we contribute to NHIF every month, both through salary cuts and self-payment, yet NHIF is bankrupt. The problem is all money is collected by the Treasury, then redirected to other activities. Do we have more? Yeah. Carlos M. Joseph says, I'm really enjoying the explainer today. Let people challenge Jimi because so far I'm really convinced by what he's saying. Why pay for something that didn't follow due course? And finally, Kim Professor says, Jimi Wanjigi is part of the problem. All he's telling us now doesn't add up. When he's not part of the system, he is complaining. Where was he from 2013 to 2027? You want to, sorry, 2017.
2013 to 2017.
To 2017, correct.
Right.
You want to respond to that?
With that one?
Yeah.
Where was I? I was myself very clear, not in government, and I had nothing to do with the system. Between 2013 and 2017, I had a lot in 2013 to do with the government that came into power. And we fell out soon after, primarily because of the same problems I'm articulating today. So we know the problems deeply. Debt started being taken at a level I have never seen in my life. And it started with SGR and then Eurobonds. And we parted with that government. And we stayed that way until today. So I don't know about part of the system. The question is that we at least know what the problem is.
Okay.
Now,
so
the second...
Are you saying this now because, I mean, seemingly in previous administrations, you have had a part to play. Somewhat.
You can say...
yes. You would say, I mean, you're free to say exactly what it is, but like you've just said, you had a part to play in 2013.
Yes.
Right?
In putting the government in power.
That's fine.
Yes.
But then some would say, well, you're just sitting on the outside now, perhaps not part of this administration in any way, shape, or form. And that could be the reason you're saying this now. You're on the outside.
You know, I'm glad he's brought it up because I brought up my debt forensic audit before the end of Uhuru's term. We came out with it in July before the elections. And of course, everybody was paying attention to the elections, but we wanted it on record. Because he was exiting, we put it on record. So we are a people of record. The regime you can say I have been part of was the regime of Mwai Kibaki, which was in fact what I call the Enlightenment regime. Modern Kenya started then. You can say we were part of that. And I believe in most part, laws were followed. We had a falling apart because laws were not being followed from 2013. From 2013. I am saying this because I am a Kenyan. And I can see and feel the pain that everybody else is feeling. This is our country, and it is going to the doldrums. If I don't speak, who will speak? I have capacity because I know the inside, and I know the general economy of this country. I have capacity to even investigate, do a forensic audit of what is the biggest expenditure of our books. So I am doing it for Kenyans, not for Jimi Wanjigi. The second question I liked the first question that came up was very good. Mm-hmm. Have I factored in interest? Mm-hmm. I did. This forensic audit factored in all interest payments that were done. And we have tabulated it. We sent it to you, it's in our book. All interest payments, all principal payments, foreign and domestic. And it is frightening the picture. It also factored in our payments of those loans. And I want to repeat this extensively. That for the loans we took, we paid back 5.6 trillion. I don't see that figure ever coming down in CBK account. It never shows a credit. And 5.6 trillion was never an interest, either side, domestic or external. Mm. So we are doing this for Kenyans. We are doing this to make this a milestone in our lives, since we are now very keen on economic independence and economic freedom. This is a milestone. We are saying this is the albatross. This is what is on our neck. It is tying us down. And until we remove it, you will never see a change of your cost of living. It will keep rising. You will never see your shilling get further. It will keep getting less. We are at the abyss. In other words, we are almost at the end of the cliff. It is very near. And I'm not, as they say, crying wolf or screaming that there is being an alarmist. This is reality. When Ghana reached this stage of 70% of its revenue going to debt, this was December last year, the Minister of Finance went on TV and said, we can't pay. But he tried to assure Ghanaians, using quotes in the Bible, that they will not suffer. Before Christmas, they could not believe what was happening in their accounts. So we are at that stage at 70%. What makes Kenya so unique that we'll escape what we have seen others in the world? 70% of our revenue going to debt. It is not sustainable.
We'll have to leave it at that for now. Thank you so much for making time for us here, Jimi Wanjigi, businessman, on matters debt and the economy. So we'll wait and see what happens. Parliament is busy this week. Deadline is obviously June 30th. So we shall see if the President, Parliament, the Executive, and many others will listen to what you have said today and take it into consideration. Thank you so much for making time for us on The Explainer tonight. Jimi Wanjigi, who is a businessman and was an aspirant for the presidential election in 2022 on the economy and the country's debt. Thanks for watching The Explainer. Thanks for your views and your feedback. We'll see you again next time. Good night.
Good night. Asante sana.